Hi, I'm Linda, and this is Beautiful Thrift Homemaking. Thank you for joining me. This year, since June, we've been reading through a vintage cookbook from 1917. The storyline in the cookbook began in the month of June, so I started recording these episodes in the month of June. We are now in the month of December, finishing it up. Instead of reading 2 chapters per episode, I'm going to read 4 again this time just because I'm a little behind due to the holidays, and this is the last day of December as I record this. And after these 4 chapters that I'll read today, we'll begin into the month of January with the new year. And so I want to kind of keep myself apace by reading a little extra today. So thank you for bearing with me. I hope you enjoy the storyline and the recipes today. We'll discuss all of that after I do the readings. So we begin with chapter 100. Bettina gives a dinner. The Christmas feeling is everywhere now, said Bettina, as she arranged a small artificial fir tree in the center of the table. It may be a little early, but I can't keep from using Christmas decorations tonight. Tannenbaum, oh Tannenbaum, you look wonderfully festive with snow at your foot and your branches strung with tinsel and ornaments. All that you lack is candles, but I shall use my red shaded candles on the table instead. Let me see. Everything is ready, even to the biscuits which are in the icebox waiting to be popped in the oven when the guests arrive. The salad is mixed and waiting, and that Washington pie does look delicious. I'm glad I made it, for Bob is so fond of it. Wonder why Bob doesn't come. I want him to see the table and the tree before the others get here, and build up the fire in the fireplace. It's snowing hard outside, and I want it to be warm and cozy inside. Oh, there's someone. Well, off goes my apron. The someone proved to be Bob, who came in very pink as to his face and very white as to his snow-covered shoulders. It's growing colder every minute, said Bob. Well, a Christmas table. I like that. Makes a fellow feel festive. I couldn't resist the spirit of Christmas, said Bettina. I couldn't either, said Bob, taking a half-dozen gorgeous yellow chrysanthemums from their wrappings. So I bought you an early Christmas gift. Like 'em? For dinner, Bettina served pork tenderloins, candied sweet potatoes, creamed cauliflower, baking powder biscuits, butter, currant jelly, orange and cherry salad, wafers, Washington pie, and coffee. And in this chapter, we have Bettina's recipes for orange and cherry salad, Washington pie, and the cream filling for Washington pie. Yep. And so we'll discuss those at the end. Chapter 101, Bob's Christmas Gift to Bettina. Bob had walked home from the office through the falling snow, and it was no short distance, with thought for neither snow nor distance. He was distinctly worried. Christmas only 2 weeks off, the first Christmas since he and Bettina had been married, and as yet he had no idea what sort of a Christmas gift he ought to purchase for his wife. What did she need? Unfortunately, he had heard her say only a few days ago that she didn't need a thing. What did she secretly long for? A glass baking dish? Shucks, what an unromantic present. Surely Bettina had been teasing him when she mentioned such a prosy gift as that. Well, if he didn't have some inspiration by the day before Christmas, there would be nothing to do but get her violets or candy or perhaps some silly book that she didn't want. Hello, Bob, said a voice almost at his feet. Say, Mr. Bob, Billy. Say, Mr. Bob, Billy, another voice corrected severely. Hello, Jackie. Good evening, Marjorie. Coasting good? Oh, pretty good. You don't know what we've got at our house. 4 Angora kittens, interrupted Marjorie eagerly, before Bob had a chance to guess. 4 whole kittens. Can't see a thing though, but they'll learn after a while. We're going to sell 3 of them and keep one and see here, Marjorie, exclaimed Bob. I'd like to buy one myself for a Christmas present to someone. How about it? You ask your mother to save one for me. I'll stop in tomorrow morning and talk to her about it. Could you take care of it for me till Christmas morning? And Bob strode on with a happy grin on his face. Wouldn't Bettina laugh at the idea of an Angora kitten? For dinner that night, Bettina served beef steak, baked potatoes, cauliflower in cream, cranberry jelly molds, bread butter, burnt sugar cake, butter, confectioner's icing, bread, butter, burnt sugar cake, confectioner's icing, coffee. And we have Bettina's recipes for the cranberry jelly, the burnt sugar cake, and the confectioner's icing. Chapter 102, A Christmas Breakfast. Of course, a tiny Christmas tree was the centerpiece on Bettina's breakfast table, set for a 9 o'clock family breakfast. All of the Christmas gifts, except those that were too large, were grouped around the base of the tree. Bettina refused to allow even Bob to have a peep at the gifts until the guests, Father, Mother, Uncle John, and Aunt Lucy, had arrived. Now, don't you give us too much to eat, Bettina, laughed Father. I know your mother has been making some mighty elaborate preparations for dinner at home, and you must leave us with an appetite. Well, you don't have any appetite left if you eat all... Well, you won't have any appetite left if you eat all you want of these waffles of mine, exclaimed Bob, coming in from the kitchen with a spoon in his hand and an apron tied around his neck. Go back to the kitchen, cook, said Uncle John. We don't want to see you, but we're willing to taste your waffles. Bring them on. First, said Bettina, we'll eat our grapefruit. Then we'll open our packages, and then, Bob, you can help me serve the rest of our Christmas breakfast. Come on, said Uncle John. Then I'll be Santa Claus and deliver the presents. For breakfast, Bettina served grapefruit with maraschino cherries, oatmeal and dates, whipped cream, ham cooked with milk, creamed potatoes, muffins, orange marmalade, waffles, maple syrup, and coffee, of course. Here we have the recipes for oatmeal with dates, ham cooked in milk, muffins, and waffles. And finally, we have chapter 103, A Supper for Two. Well, this is something I didn't get that right. Well, this is something like it, said Bob as he sat down to dinner one evening several days after Christmas. A good plain meal again. I'm so tired of Christmas trees and Christmas flowers and Christmas food that I don't believe I'll care to see any more of them until, well, next year. Everything is put away now, said Bettina. All the presents are in their permanent places. Except Fluff, she added, glancing at the Persian kitten cuddled in an armchair. I couldn't pull Fluff away. I couldn't put Fluff away and don't care to. Isn't he a darling? Just the very touch that the living room needed to make it absolutely home-like. Well, said Bob, we did need a cat, but I think we need a dog too. About next spring I'll get one if I can find one to suit me. Oh, Bob, won't a dog be a nuisance and destructive? And do you suppose Fluff could endure one? Fluff can learn to endure one, Bob said. Every home ought to have a dog in it. Oh, we'll get a good dog someday. Bettina, if I keep my eyes open. Have another muffin, said Bettina. They'll do to change the subject. Someday I may long for a dog too, but just now, well, Fluff seems to be a pet enough for one house. For supper that night they had Bettina's scrambled eggs, creamed potatoes, corn gems, plum butter, hickory nut cake, confectioner's icing, and coffee. And we have Bettina's recipes for her scrambled eggs and the corn gems here at the end of chapter 103. So now I'm going to turn back to our beginning of chapter 100. Bettina gives a dinner, and we'll go over those recipes and see what those foods were like, and we'll talk about the chapters. All right, so let's discuss these 4 chapters to end the month of December in our vintage cookbook, 1,000 Ways to Please a Husband. I have a reprint here from Dover Publications that I'm reading from. Chapter 100, Bettina gives a dinner. She has a little fir tree for her centerpiece, and she's going to have some friends over. And Bob came home through the snow, walking home from work, and he brought her some chrysanthemums to decorate her home with. And I guess that is a wintertime flower, isn't it? So that worked out for them. And she has an interesting recipe here called a Washington pie, which I am not familiar with at all. Sounds like it is quite different. So we're going to go over that. But first, let's talk about this orange and cherry salad. 2 portions. And why the recipe is for 2 portions when she's giving a dinner, I do not know, because usually they match usually she matches the recipe amounts with the event. So the orange and cherry salad is made with 2 oranges, 1/2 a cup of white cherries, 1/2 a cup of diced celery, 1/8 teaspoon salt, and 1/2 a cup of salad dressing. Remove the white membrane from the pulp of 2 oranges and cut each section into half crosswise. Add the seeded cherries and celery salt. Interesting, because the recipe outlines 1/2 a cup of diced celery and 1/8 a teaspoon of salt. But when it gives the directions, it does say and celery salt. So I think that's an error. I think we have at this point to add the chopped diced celery and the salt. Mix thoroughly, add the salad dressing, and serve very cold on lettuce leaves. So oranges, cherries, celery with salad dressing over a lettuce leaf. That's the salad. Then the Washington pie is for 6 portions, and then it has a cream filling also. So the first part is going to take 1 1/3 cups of sugar, 3 eggs, 1/2 a cup of water, 1/2 a teaspoon of lemon extract, 2 cups of flour, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Beat the egg yolks 5 minutes. Add the sugar and beat 3 minutes. Add the water, lemon extract, flour, and baking powder. Mix thoroughly. Fold in the beaten egg whites very carefully. Bake 25 minutes in 2 round shallow pans in a moderate oven. When cool, put the following filling between the layers. Sprinkle the top with powdered sugar. So we see here that Washington pie is actually more of a cake with a filling. And so it's, I would say 2 round shallow pans might be like cake pans. To make that cream filling for the Washington pie, you're going to use 2/3 a cup of sugar, 1/3 cup of flour, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 1/2 cups of milk, 1 egg yolk, 1/2 teaspoon vanilla, and 1/2 teaspoon of lemon extract again. Mix thoroughly the sugar, salt, and flour. Gradually add the milk, stirring constantly. Pour into the top of a double boiler and cook until very thick. Add the egg yolk, vanilla, and lemon extract and cook 2 minutes. Beat until creamy and cool. Spread on the cake. Serve Washington pie with whipped cream if desired. So I noticed that both the cake pie, cake slash pie, or I guess pie slash cake, right? Um, I noticed that both of them have lemon extract, that and the filling have lemon extract. So it's a lemony dessert, which, you know, we often see lemon desserts in the summertime. I think I'd like to make a note of this recipe and give it a try sometime later. All right. Next, chapter 101, Bob finds a kitten to be a gift for Bettina for Christmas, and he calls it an Angora kitten, and later on it's called a Persian kitten. And so it is probably a long-haired cat. He buys it from two little children he sees in the neighborhood as he's walking. The recipes for cranberry jelly are 3 portions, 2 cups of cranberries, 2/3 a cup of water, and 3/4 a cup of sugar. Look over the cranberries, removing any stems and soft berries. Add the water and cook until the skins have burst and all the berries are soft. Press through a strainer, removing all the pulp. Add the sugar to the pulp and cook until the mixture is thick, stirring occasionally to prevent sticking. When the jelly stands up on a plate, it is done. Pour into molds, preferably of china or glass, which has been wet with cold water. Right. So that's going to be served alongside a beefsteak. So I think that's kind of a relish to go with the meat. Now for dessert, we have a burnt sugar cake, and this recipe makes 16 pieces. You start with 1/2 cup of butter, 1½ cups of sugar, 2 eggs, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 2½ cups of flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 cup of boiling water, and 1 teaspoon vanilla. Caramelize 2/3 of a cup of sugar. So you have 1½ cups of sugar in the recipe. You're going to take 2/3 a cup out of that, and you're going to caramelize it. It says when the sugar is melted and reaches the light brown of the caramel stage, add the water. So you're dry heating it in a pan. It's going to start getting browned, which is called caramelizing. But you're going to have to be quick because you don't want it to be burnt. Although it's called a burnt sugar cake, you don't actually want it to burn. So as it reaches the light brown caramel stage, you're going to add the water. And that was 1 cup of boiling water. Then you're going to cook the sugar until it's thoroughly dissolved in the water, and then allow it to cool. Cream the butter, add the rest of the uncooked sugar, and then add the egg yolk, which was 2 from 2 eggs. Mix well. Add the add the salt, flour, baking powder, vanilla, and the cooled liquid. Beat 2 minutes and add the egg whites, stiffly beaten. Pour into 2 pans prepared with buttered paper. Bake 25 minutes in a moderate oven. Ice with confectioner's sugar. So I think that would be an interesting cake to give a try. And then the confectioner's icing for the 16 portions is made with 2 tablespoons of cream or milk, 1/2 a teaspoon of vanilla, 1 tablespoon of caramelized syrup or maple syrup, and 1½ cups of powdered sugar. Mix the cream, vanilla, and syrup. Add the sugar, sifted, until the right consistency to spread. Spread carefully between the layers and on the top. Set aside to cool and to allow the icing to set. Note, more sugar may be needed in making the icing. Now, chapter 102, a Christmas breakfast. Bettina and Bob are having company. They're hosting Bettina's parents and her aunt and uncle to this Christmas breakfast, and they're going to share the gift opening and such with them kind of mid-breakfast, because Bettina wants them first to have their grapefruit with the maraschino cherries, and then they're going to open the packages. And Bob has an apron on, tied about his neck, and he is making waffles. But we have the recipes here for not only the waffles, but also the muffins, which is interesting that muffins are served with waffles because they're both breads. You're also going to have the ham cooked in milk and the oatmeal with dates. So the oatmeal with dates is made with 1 cup of oatmeal, 1½ cups of water, 1 tablespoon of salt, and 1/2 cup of dates cut fine. This will make 6 portions. Remember, portions were much smaller in 1917, which helped people to stay slender and conserved money. Mix the oatmeal, salt, and water and cook directly over the fire for 3 minutes. Add the dates, put in the fire list, and cook all night. Serve with unsweetened whipped cream. Okay, so the oatmeal back then must have been less processed than ours today. We have the quick cooking that takes 1 minute. We have the old-fashioned, which takes 5 minutes. We have the steel cut oats, which take maybe 25 minutes. So here she has an oatmeal that's taking much longer. It's slow cooking overnight. All right. Now, ham cooked in milk. Again, milk acts as a tenderizer for meats. We had a chicken recipe earlier, very recently, that was tenderized in milk, I believe. Or maybe I just mentioned that my grandmother used to tenderize her chicken in buttermilk before she made fried chicken. Ham cooked in milk for 4 portions is 1 pound of ham, a slice 2/3 of an inch thick, and 1 cup of milk. Pour boiling water over the ham and allow it to stand 10 minutes. Remove the ham and place in the frying pan. Add the milk and allow to cook slowly for 25 minutes. Remove from the milk and garnish with parsley. I had ham for our Christmas meal, for our Christmas dinner, and I bought a pre-cooked ham. It was smoked with applewood, and it was very tasty, and there's quite a bit left, even though it was boneless and just a smaller piece. That was very convenient and easy for the Christmas dinner, and I think I might try that again because there was just so little fuss with it. And I have some left that I think I'll have with eggs this morning for my breakfast. So for 12 muffins, 2 cups of flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/3 cup sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1 egg, 1 cup milk, and 2 teaspoons melted butter. Mix the flour, baking powder, sugar, and salt. Add the egg, beaten, and milk, and beat 2 minutes. Add the melted butter. Fill well-buttered muffin pans 1/2 full. Bake 20 minutes in a moderate oven. Okay, so this is a very quick baking powder biscuit. Not biscuit, I'm sorry, baking powder muffin. A quick bread. All right. So waffles, 6 portions, 1 3/4 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, and you know that's the same as 1 tablespoon. 2 well-beaten eggs, 3/4 cup of milk, and 1 tablespoon of melted butter. You're going to mix and sift the flour, sugar, salt, and baking powder. Then you're going to add the eggs and milk and beat 2 minutes. Then you're going to add the butter, that melted butter. Stir that in. Bake in well-greased waffle irons. So I haven't made waffles for a while, but I do have a small waffle iron. And the recipe that I have for my waffles, as I mentioned before, uses eggs that are separated. And you do whip up the egg whites. You beat them until they're stiff peaks, and then you fold it into the batter. It makes a very fluffy, light waffle. And in this recipe, she didn't do that. But as we saw in some of the other recipes, she did use that technique of whipping the egg whites until stiff and folding them back in gently to her baked goods. It works well for cakes and such also. And then the final chapter, 103, is Supper for Two. It's Bob and Bettina after Christmas. It's a plain old meal, according to Bob, and he's happy with that. He's happy with the simple and the standard and the familiar. Bettina has put away all the Christmas things, and she says she's put them in their proper places. Remember the old adage, a place for everything and everything in its place? That's a great homemaking tip and something to keep in mind. Now, Bob is talking about getting a dog. I see that Bettina has named her kitten Fluff, and she's loving her kitten, it sounds like. So it's adding a sense of homelikeness to the living room, she says. She tries to get Bob to stop talking about getting a dog by giving him another muffin. And so that was funny. He's determined. He thinks that every home needs a dog. What do you think about that? I have a very strong opinion about that. I'm not going to share it here because it would not be a popular opinion, I don't think. It seems to me that almost everyone has a dog nowadays. Okay, Bettina's scrambled eggs are made for 2 portions with 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon onions cut fine, 1/8 a teaspoon of celery salt. So this time we do have celery salt. 1 tablespoon of chopped pimento, 1 tablespoon of green pepper chopped, 2 tablespoons of ham cooked and cut fine, 2 tablespoons of milk, 1/2 tablespoon butter, 1/3 a teaspoon salt, and 1/8 a teaspoon paprika. Melt the butter in a frying pan, and when hot, add the onions, pimento, and green pepper. Remember, your pimento is a mild red pepper, like a red bell. Then you're going to let cook slowly 1 minute. Beat the egg, add the milk, celery, salt, paprika, and chopped ham. Add the mixture to that in the frying pan. Cook, stirring until it is thick and creamy. About 2 minutes. Serve immediately on a hot platter. I think I have almost everything I would need to make that, and I might just make that for my breakfast this morning. Now, corn gems are the final recipe for this year, this chapter. Corn gems makes 6 gems. Remember, gems, Gems, are small molded pans, or like a muffin tin. You might think of it as like 6 muffins. 1/2 a cup of cornmeal, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1/2 a cup of white flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 egg, 1/2 cup of milk, and 1 tablespoon of melted butter. Mix the cornmeal, sugar, flour, baking powder, salt, egg, and milk. Beat 2 minutes. Pour into well-buttered muffin pans, filling each half full. Bake 20 minutes in a moderate oven. And we remember that moderate ovens are probably 350 degrees, could be 325, but that is the general temperature range for a moderate oven. So corn gems are little cornmeal muffins, and they are slightly sweet with that 3 tablespoons of sugar in them for 6 of them. Okay, and there we have this is how far along we are in our book. We have only this much more to go. So we're going to read January, February, March, April, and May to complete this book. And I'm looking forward to moving on in it. Before I go, though, I'm going to leave you with a Bible verse for the end of the year and to think about as we think about New Year's resolutions and we think about just the significance of that. I'm going to read Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 through 25. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. All right, so I like this part that God's mercies are new every morning. So while you're thinking of your New Year's resolutions, whether it be tonight or some other time when you're listening to this, I hope that you'll remember that every day God is available for you and he loves you. And Happy New Year. We'll see you again in January.